Hello, welcome to the Authority Club. My name's Sue Richardson and I'm the publisher of The Authority Guides, pocket-sized guidance for business leaders. And today I'm delighted to welcome to chat with me the author of The Authority Guide to Trusted Selling, Paul Avins.
So, hello, Paul.
Hello, Sue, and thanks for having me.
Well, thank you so much for joining us here in the December issue of The Authority. It's an absolute delight to have you with us. Paul, as one of our most recent authors, the author of the Authority Guide to Trusted Selling, it's great to have you with us today, and I'd love to ask you a few questions about your book and about how we can all become better at selling and developing stronger, deeper, more profitable relationships with our customers.
Definitely, let's go.
Fabulous. So, Paul, how did you get started in selling?
That's a great question. Well, my father will tell you that I got started in selling when I sold my Smurfs to my sister when I was 7 years old. I always like to say that I actually leased them to her because she had to pay me every month to hang on to them. But the truth of it is, I kind of learned to sell really when I started a paper round. Actually, before I even got into business, I had a paper round when I was a sort of 13, 14, 15 years old, and I really kind of understood what it took to knock on a door and sell somebody on signing up for a subscription to a newspaper. So I kind of started then, really. But I mean, my first professional role in terms of selling, I guess you could say, was actually, I'm just thinking about it. When I was 18, I worked in BHS on a Saturday selling lights. So that was another, I learned how to sell people on the idea of this light in their home, what it would look like, and all those kind of things. But I mean, commercially, I started selling when I started working with my father, and my sales training really pretty much comprised of: here's an area, here's a map, here's a car, here's some petrol money. And here's a list of people you need to go and sell, and here's a portfolio of all the products we sell. Now get out and hit your target. And that was basically it. I mean, that was about as far as my sales training went, which is kind of like trial by fire, really. You either make it or you don't, really. Him and I have very different personalities, as it turns out, in terms of profile. So he's very much a steel energy profile. So for him, knocking on doors and getting rejected today was pretty easy. He didn't have a problem with it. Whereas I'm a dynamo profile, and knocking on doors and getting rejected all day doesn't go well for my profile. So there was, which I, by the way, have only learned recently when I profiled my father, after doing this. But so him and I kind of experiences of that whole learning to sell piece. But I guess what changed for me was that I got dragged screaming and kicking to a network marketing seminar, and I really wasn't very interested in getting into the business or looking at it. But what I heard was somebody on stage say something which really profoundly impacted the rest of my life, which was, you want to invest 10% of your income back in training. Not investing in your own development, then how can you expect someone else to pay you any more money for your skill set? And that message really resonated with me, and meant that I went on this kind of journey of self-discovery and went out and bought just about every single tape I could get. Back at the time, there were tapes back in the day, but tapes on selling and psychology and influencing people from the likes of the greats of Zig Ziglar, Brian Tracy, Tom Hopkins, and kind of just consumed this information. Because what I realized was the more I applied it, the better I did. And there was a period in my life where people used to genuinely think I had come from another country because I adopted part of their accents because I was listening to this stuff so much in my car. But I started to have this very peculiar accent, and I was regularly asked where in the world I came from, even though I'm born and bred here in the UK. So that's really kind of how I got started in selling, and that my father and I business very successfully over a 5-year period, and from nothing, that area that I was responsible for was doing high 6-figure income in terms of what it was generating for us as a business. So I kind of had to learn on my feet, really, by being out there and reading books and listening to tapes and going to seminars and those kind of things, and then applying what I learned. Really, that's how I got started.
And you've grown your business from from your own business since then, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, I've been very blessed to have multiple businesses doing different kinds of selling. So, I've sold in a boardroom and asked for multiple £1 million contracts. I've also, I've knocked on doors and done cold calling and done those kind of things. I've also run a sales team that's sold in the home and actually sat in front of people over a kitchen table and had to make a sales presentation whilst dealing with kids who are hungry at 6 o'clock in the evening. So, I've done all of it really, and as well as obviously selling from stage as a speaker and those kind of things. So, for me, I think selling is a skill that once you understand how to build trust with somebody, you then have to just apply the medium of transference. So do you want to do it face to face? Do you want to do it like on a call like this? Do you want to do it through video? Do you want to do it on a webinar? Do you want to do it, in a boardroom? They're just the environments you choose to transfer the trust in. But yeah, so, I've much sold in just about every environment imaginable, actually.
Yeah. So can you tell us a bit about how you feel trusted selling can help us to build these stronger relationships that we need to build with our clients?
Sure. Let me go back a minute and just tell you why I think it's so important and why I wanted to write this book and why I felt now was the right time for it.
Great.
I've built my coaching consulting practice over the last 14 years, really using trust-based selling. And over the last 2 or 3 years, I've been using it with a number of different clients, and we've got some spectacular results from selling on exhibition stands to face-to-face, all of those different environments. But what really struck me was that we're living in very challenging times where nobody trusts anybody anymore, right? There's been massive political upheaval. We don't trust the politicians. In fact, we now pretty much are sure that they're downright, lying to us most of the time. We don't trust the banks anymore. We don't trust institutions anymore. And of course, on that list is we clearly would never trust salespeople because they must have an agenda. And their agenda is that they get paid a commission if we buy from them, right? That's the assumption. And when people don't trust, when there's a breakdown in trust, commerce suffers hugely, because in order for businesses to do business, in order for us to buy things, we need to be able to trust the person who's advising us. We need to be able to trust it. And think of a time in your life when you've thought about buying something, significantly expensive. So let's say over £1,000. If you don't trust the person you're involved with that conversation with, there's no way in the world you're going to spend £1,000 with them. So it doesn't matter how good the features and the benefits of the product are. You're going to get stuck by this relationship issue, which is I don't trust you. We also live in a world where I can probably find out more about your product and service spending 10 minutes on a Google search than you can ever tell me in a face-to-face conversation. So the old school of selling it was all about features and benefits. And I'm not saying that's not important. It is. You've still got to understand that stuff for sure. But a lot of people now, by the time they're engaging with, whether you're a business owner, a salesperson, sales manager, or sales director, by the time they're engaging with you in a conversation, they've already done an awful lot of research and they've already got a lot of background information on not just you, but also your competition. So where's the point of difference? Where's the differentiator between you and somebody else, you and your competition? And the answer is, it's in how you engage with that person. It's in how you build trust with them. It's in how you connect with them and help explore how you add value to them. And, trust is critical, because unless you add value to people, people don't trust you. And yet we ask the wrong question most of the time, which is, how do we get more sales? We're in a business. How do we go out and get more sales? And my question is, well, actually, you're asking my point of view is you're asking the wrong question. The question should be, well, how do we build more trust with our customers? New customers or existing customers? How do we build more trust? And the answer to that question is, how do we add more value? And when you start asking, and what happened to me in my business, when I started asking that question, how do we add more value to our existing customers and how do we add more value to our potential customers so they will trust us more, then what happened was my sales just exploded. And the sales of my clients that I've worked with have done exactly the same. But it's this shift, this fundamental shift from old sales training used to be about go out and get the business, close the customer, all this very, very aggressive kind of language. And my point of view, it's actually, how do we go out and attract a customer? How do we engage with the customer? How do we nurture that relationship? How do we build it? How do we sustain it? And they're very different kind of approaches. And mine is based on the fundamental principle that unless people know you, like you, and trust you, they're never going to do business with you.
Yeah, that's brilliant. So a lot of it is that kind of giving approach, isn't it? You're giving stuff to people even before you've got into the sales conversation, because then they see you as the expert that you are, and all the rest. Yeah,
You have to
fabulous.
give value. There was a
Of
time.
course.
There was a time when businesses would say, "Listen, pay us some money, and then we'll give you the good stuff."
Yes.
Whereas we live in a world right now where people go, "Look, I don't trust anybody anymore. I don't trust anybody online, obviously. But so I'd like to try something. And if you think about this, retailers have been doing this for years. We went, shopping recently and wandered into a department store, and just inside the front of the store was a tasting booth where you could go and taste the they were selling upstairs on a promotion in their restaurant. Now, very simple experience, but you go over, you taste the sandwich. If you like the sandwich, the chances are you're going to stay for lunch. And they know that they give away a ton of those tasting, sandwiches. And guess what? A high enough percentage of people then go and trust them to buy the whole sandwich. And it worked for us. We tasted it, went, that's really great. Let's stay for lunch.
Yes.
But again, it's no different. So the way you give out value, it may be something physical, it may be something digital, like this kind of conversation. It may be a book. It could be lots of different ways you can give value in advance. But customers want to get an experience of you before they really want to spend significant sums of money with you. They'll spend, 10, 20, 30 pounds potentially on a low purchase product to test you. They'd rather test you for free if it was available, but they will do that. But they're not going to spend 500, 1,000, 1,500 pounds or dollars unless there's a high level of trust, and that's been built, and that takes time.
Fantastic. So in the book, you've explored this fantastic system that called the dynamic selling system. Can you tell us a little bit about what that is and where that's come from?
Sure. Well, where did it come from? It came from a creative brainstorming session that I was having, because I needed to call the system something. And I thought, well, actually, do you know what? We're basing it on the talent dynamics energies, of which there are 4 energies, which obviously we go into in the book. The 4 different energies: the dynamo, the blaze, the tempo, and the steel. And I just thought, you know what? We need to have an approach which is based on how do you sell to these 4 different energies? Because this whole kind of approach to one size fits all. We live in a world where people are getting more and more used to what I call hyper personalization, where they're getting really used to very personalized experience, personalized products. You can now have a car. Henry Ford years ago used to famously say you can have any car as long as it's black, any color as long as it's black. Well, you can walk into a dealer now and you can get, the color. You can completely personalize that vehicle to you. And people want a selling experience that is personalized to them. They don't want a generic one-size-fits-all sales approach. We now live in a world where customers want to be handled in a much more refined way and in a way that works and flows with them and the way they like to buy. And that's really where the whole approach to this came from. I thought, well, what are we talking here? We're talking about a system or a step-by-step approach to selling 4 different energy types, buying energies in 4 different ways. So that really is a fairly dynamic selling system, and that's where the name came from.
That's brilliant. So the talent dynamics, as in the Roger Hamilton stuff. Yeah.
So some people may be familiar with Roger Hamilton and his profile Wealth Dynamics, and we're a global partner with Roger, and we specialize in the sales area and sales and team building area. And we use the profiling tool very heavily for that. So Wealth Dynamics is brilliant because Wealth Dynamics teaches you what you should do if you want to become an entrepreneur. But obviously, if you own a business and you have 5 salespeople on your team, you don't want them all to leave you and become entrepreneurs. So that's where Talent Dynamics comes in as a version of the profiling tool that allows us to work with entrepreneurs and sales teams and sales managers without inspiring them all to go and start their own companies.
Yes, that could be a bit tricky if you suddenly lost a lot.
You don't tend to keep customers too happy if people resign because they got a profile that told them they should start their own business. Yeah, that doesn't work well. So, but what we're really talking about here is I talk about the concept of flow, and the profiling helps us to understand 3 different types of flow. And I say, if you really want to grow, then you've got to get into flow. And what that means is the 3 different types of flow. There's personal flow. So as a salesperson or a business owner or entrepreneur, understand what are the things that you do in the selling situation that you find easy, effortless, and are really going to be in your sweet spot, and then which bits of the process you're going to find quite challenging or quite difficult given your profile. Then you've got to get into flow with your team. You've got to be able to trust the team around you to help bring in the right people at the right time to support you, to really accelerate your growth. And finally, you've got to get into flow with your customer. So now, if your customer's profile is a dynamo and it's up here and your tempo down here, there is a significant gap between how you sell and how they like to buy. And unless you can raise your energy to get into flow with that person, then you're never gonna have them as a customer. They're going to find it very difficult to stay as a customer with you. Yeah. And this whole kind of concept of if you've got cash flow problems, as I say, in your business, it's usually because you are out of flow in one of those areas. So you haven't got good customer flow because you don't know how to sell to a different type of customers. You haven't got good team flow, so your team don't understand how to sell to different kinds of customers, or they don't know how to serve or deliver customer service in a way that's going to wow your customers. And you don't understand yourself, so you don't understand where you add the most value and where you should be focusing most of your time. So those three levels of flow, ultimately, if you've got cash flow problems in your business, it's because you're blocked in one of those areas. And, if you want to get unblocked, the fundamental thing is you've got to start by knowing who you are and what puts you in flow and where you add the most value.
Wow, that's fascinating. So it's really all about understanding ourselves, having a level of self-awareness as entrepreneurs, as business owners. That's terrific. I really like that whole concept of flow.
Because most of us know when we're out of flow.
Yes.
And most of us have been sold this myth that in order to be successful, you have to be good at everything. And the truth is that we're not all good at everything. We're good at certain things that really fit our profiles. And when it comes to selling, you have certain people who are brilliant at building relationships, managing accounts, staying with customers for a long period of time, building really deep, meaningful relationships, and growing that account base. But you also have people who would find that incredibly difficult to do and would probably not stay in that role for very long because that isn't their energy. So, but you've got other people, who are brilliant at creative ideas and selling new products to new markets and new customers. And they would be brilliant at taking your business into a new territory or a new market or a new geographical location and opening it up in a way that that's a dynamo energy is brilliant for that, right? To open new markets, dynamo salespeople are absolutely at their best. But once that market is very established and has been around for years, then dynamos add much less value. So then you need a salesperson who's perhaps a different kind of energy to that. So, that's why I wrote the book. That's why the book really does unpack this concept of understanding that, there is really, you've got to understand yourself, you've got to understand the people you work with, and you've got to understand that customers buy the way they like to based on their profile. And you've got to be able to read the different kinds of energies.
Fantastic. It's really interesting listening to you talk. I mean, I think that, for a long time now, people have been incredibly nervous of the whole concept of selling. There are lots of people out there who would say, I hate the idea of selling. I'm not a good salesperson. I don't like selling, and then we get kind of tempted by these sort of tips and tricks that come from, the latest person who's found some fantastic whizzy way of selling stuff. But actually, in a way, that's all still the kind of, like you were talking earlier about, that kind of rather aggressive approach to selling that you experienced in your early days. How is this different, in fact? I mean, it sounds to me very different because it's much more sort of about human relationships.
Well, what puts most people off the idea of being a typical salesperson is because there's this, and a lot of it is pushed by the media as well, who love to portray salespeople like this in television shows or anything like that. Is that in order to be successful in selling, you have to push, and you have to get people to buy on the day and all those kind of things. And that it's just such an outdated piece of thinking, and the research says that's not true anyway. So, the typical stereotypical talking, high energy salesperson, in all the research and data that I've read, says that person is actually less successful over the long term and medium term than somebody who is what we would say, use the phrase consultative selling, which in my world is coming from a place of trust, right? So anytime I train clients of mine and we engage in teaching people how to use trust-based selling, you have to come from this mindset of, it starts with a mindset, which is my job is to understand your problem. I don't know if I can fix your problem or help you with your problem unless I understand it. And if I walk in with a level of arrogance that says, listen, my product's so good, everybody should buy it, that's a misplaced mindset. You have to start with this mindset of, look, I'm here to explore whether or not we can add value to you and whether we can help you solve a problem. See, people hate to be sold, but everybody loves to buy. If you take anybody shopping and say, do you like to buy stuff that you want and in your life, they'll go, yeah, definitely. I love shopping for things I want.
Yeah.
And selling is just professionally serving people to see the value that you have that solves their problem. If I can't solve a problem for somebody, why would I ever want them as a customer? Because if I sell them something, they're only going to either get buyer's remorse or become a really difficult customer to look after because what they bought was never going to solve a problem and add any value.
Yes.
So why would you want them as a customer? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yes.
You only want customers you can add value to and make a difference in their life. So, you have to change that mindset of, look, it's not about how many people can I sell this week. It's got to be a much bigger conversation in the mind of the salesperson to go, look, I'm building a relationship base here. I'm developing a relationship that will be fruitful for years to come, not just in the next 5 minutes.
Fantastic. So for those of us who are building sales teams or working with colleagues who are selling in certain areas, how is it that we can use this system? How can we get access to the dynamic selling system and how can we understand our own profile and that of our customers?
Well, I mean, first off, obviously, buy the book.
Yeah, absolutely.
goes without saying, buy the book. But the reality is that there are I've given you a voucher code in the book to enable you to take your own profile and get 50% off. So you can take your profile and understand yourself and start that journey. And like I say to everyone, it's about starting the journey. I always think that sometimes we even have to put aside the very word selling, because for some people it has connotations, and I prefer to think of the word serving. And so many of us we love to serve our customers, right? We love to give great service, and customers love to get great service. And if you change those two words around, like, who can I go out and serve today? Who can I add value to, rather than who can I sell today? It changes the whole energy you bring to it. So, for me, if you're at the end of the day, if you want to be successful and you want to run a successful business, at some point you're going to need to build a sales team or a selling system. Because if it relies on you doing all the selling, as you'll know, so if it's just us doing all the selling, then if we can't sell for some reason because we're off sick or we're ill or we're on holiday, then our business stops taking money.
Yes.
So at some point we're going to need to have other people do the selling for us, and that's where you really need to understand the kind of person you need around you, the kind of person you need on the team, the kind of customers that you're selling to. And this book really unpacks all of that and gives you a framework to plug people into in terms of mentally to go, oh, I know that kind of customer. Oh, I recognize that. That's a Steel Energy customer, right? And it specifically tells you on certain pages, what to do and what not to do. So it actually gives you a very quick, it's designed for different energies, but it gives you, this very quick guide to here's what to do, here's what not to do at the front of every chapter. So if you're somebody who doesn't like reading books all the way through, perhaps you're not a detail-orientated person, then just read the front pages of each chapter, because it will give you the bullet guides exactly to what to do and what not to do. But there's also an awful lot of data in here to back up. This isn't just theory of, I've used this system myself to generate well over £4 million in consulting and coaching revenue since I started in the profession. And it's battle tested not just by me, but by a number of my clients, one of whom's written the forward very graciously talking about her experience. So, the question is, do you want to have more customers who love engaging with you, love buying from you, and want to come back more and more from you? In which case, if you do, then you need to understand how to add value in the way they recognize it and how to build trust in a way that leads them to a point of wanting to buy from you. Do that, and your business is going to do nothing but succeed.
That's fascinating. Are there energies that you really shouldn't be kind of putting into the same room at all? Does it work that way, or is it actually something? Because obviously sometimes you just, it's more about understanding how to kind of temper things rather than actually necessarily saying, oh, I can't send that guy over there because it's not going to work.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one that comes up a lot, because quite often people say to me, well, are you saying I need to have 4 different types of salespeople and I send different ones out to different customers? And no, I'm not saying that, because commercially that's not a very good model for any business to adopt, right? Yeah. But what I am saying is I use the analogy, it's a bit like standing on one side of a beach ball. So you're stood on one side of a beach ball, and from an energy point of view, it might be white, red, and green. And somebody stood on the other side of the beach ball, and to them it's black, white, and gold. And what you need to be able to do is you need to understand how to change your behavior and walk around the other side of the beach ball and look at the world from their point of view and understand that what do they want and how you shift your behavior and your energy to be more of a match. As I said, in some cases it will be raise your energy to come up to connect with like a dynamo. And in some cases it will be slow down to connect more with a tempo, right? Or maybe it's to, give more detail and numbers to a steel energy person, or maybe it's to go more socializing with a blaze energy person. Now, you can do all of these, right? All of us can do all of them. There are just certain ones that will feel more in flow, and there are certain ones that will feel more of a stretch. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way, but it's just to recognize when you're being stretched out of your, if you like, your flow or your comfort zone naturally, and understand how to change so that you still connect with the person the way they want to be connected to.
Fantastic. Paul, that's been absolutely amazing.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
It's been fantastic to have you on The Authority, and I've really enjoyed chatting with you. Let's just sum up there with how people can buy the book at Amazon.
Yes.
And
Indeed.
there's a slide coming up at the end where they can not only do that but also reach you. So all your contact details will be on that slide for anyone who would like to talk directly to Paul about what you do. And just a reminder that those profiles can be accessed, and you're offering a 50% discount to anyone who buys the book, which is a terrific offer.
Yeah. So in the book there is a token that says how they can claim it, and it's at the end of each of the 4 chapters. So and I'd say, look, the first thing to understanding how to sell and connect using trust-based selling is, as I said, there's those 3 levels, and the first one is to understand yourself. And then having understood yourself, understand the people you work with, which is obviously, we do that with our Dream Teams training sessions when we go in and train companies for a day, where we do that and profile everybody as part of that program. But and then you can start to understand how to actually do that in terms of connecting with customers and their energies. And obviously the book does that. If you purchase the book on my website as well, you get 4 free training videos as well, which goes into more depth with that as a nice little bonus. So either on mine or Amazon, either one is cool. Happy with that. But just thank you very much, Sue, for the opportunity to be part of the Authority Guide series. It's a real privilege and a pleasure to be there and have the chance to share what I know. My goal with this book is to shift the way people think about selling, and to not see it as something to be afraid of, and to not seeing it as something that is cheesy, and to see it as something that, when used with integrity and authenticity, can literally change the lives of your customers and change the fortunes of your business.
Fantastic. Paul, thank you so much.
You're
it's
welcome.
Been a real pleasure to talk to you. It's been a real pleasure working with you on the project, and hopefully there'll be more to come as well, I think.
Look forward to it. Look forward to another opportunity to share value. Yes.
Absolutely. Fantastic.
All right.
Paul, great. I will say goodbye there.
Yes, goodbye. Just remember, if you want to grow, get into flow. That's all I'll say.
Fantastic. Thanks, Paul.
You're welcome.